Hi there, I'm Chris O'Byrne, and in today's video, I'm going to give you an overview of the book design and publishing process. Here is the big picture overview, but I'll go through each of the 8 steps along the way so that you get a solid understanding of the whole process. The first 2 steps actually start before the book design process, but they're so important that I wanted to include them here. The first step is to know who your ideal reader is. If you are in business, then your ideal reader is your ideal customer. But have you really dug into who that person is and what you can provide for them that will change their life? For example, one of my ideal customers is the indie publisher who is spending far too much of their precious time trying to find affordable and reliable help on Fiverr or Upwork. The value we provide is high-quality book design, fast and friendly service, and a well-oiled machine that makes sure nothing is missed. And we're super affordable. So at least get to that level of understanding your ideal customer and what their pain point is that you're fixing for them. Knowing what to write about in regards to that intersection is not always as easy as it sounds. For example, do I write about our great services and how valuable it is to publishers? Yes, but with a lot more subtlety and a lot more regard for the person reading it. I want my book to provide tons of value for my ideal reader first and foremost. For my ideal publisher client, I would start by describing them and the big pain they're experiencing. The more I demonstrate how well I understand their big pain, the more they'll believe that I can help them. I would also include a lot of stories, such as stories of publishers I've already helped and what their life was like before and after working with my company. I would also include my story of my journey to where I'm at now providing this service. A lot more goes into this, but again, this is a high-level overview. Often, your book will be the first impression people have of you. If your book looks unprofessional or amateurish, then that's what people will think you are like. They won't trust you enough to buy from you. A book that looks and reads professional gives people the trust they need to do business with you. Have you ever read a book where you wondered if someone had even bothered to edit it? Or you noticed a lot of spelling and other strange errors? You probably felt the author wasn't all that reliable. After all, if they couldn't take the time to have their book proofread, then what would it be like to work with them? Would they do a sloppy job? Would they miss deadlines? You just don't know. But we tend to believe the old adage that how a person does one thing is how they do everything. So then, what is the difference between editing and proofreading? There are actually several forms of editing. Developmental editing is almost like ghostwriting because it involves developing the flow and structure of your entire book. Developmental editing is used before you finish your manuscript. It's not concerned with correcting grammar or spelling, for example, but is very much about the big picture. Most authors do this part themselves because they usually know the subject matter better than anyone else. Plus, developmental editing can get expensive. This developmental phase includes other types of editing with various names, but it all comes down to preparing your manuscript to be turned into a book. Now, after all the pieces are in place and your manuscript is finished, you then move on to copy editing and proofreading. And although these are often promoted as 2 separate editing phases, I tend to look at them both as proofreading. For example, when my company does a proofread, we do 3 to 4 passes to cover all types of editing in this final phase. We check for grammar, sentence structure, spelling, typos, punctuation, fact-checking, and consistency. The hardest part of this process for you, after admitting you need a professional editor, is finding an editor. It can be difficult to find a good editor because there are tons of people trying to make money as a freelance editor. Unfortunately, most of them do a poor job. You can always use my team at JETLAUNCH.net, and you can also check out places like Upwork. But if you go that route, only hire people who speak your language natively and have only 5-star ratings. Don't take chances you don't have to take. You know that saying, don't judge a book by its cover? Well, you can forget it because pretty much everyone judges a book by its cover. And nowadays, it pays to do that. With the big changes that have disrupted the publishing industry, specifically self-publishing, the more money and effort that goes into book design, the better the final product looks and the better you look. This isn't always the case, but it usually is. Usually, if you see a great cover, then you know that the author put an equal amount of effort into the information that's in the book, which is what you are ultimately most interested in. So, what makes a good cover design? It's part art and part science. The art aspect is difficult to express in words. It's one of those things where you look at it and you just know that it's good. The science part is mostly about selling. For example, when the cover is viewed as a thumbnail, which is the same size as the cover images on an Amazon search results page, you can clearly read the title and author of the book. Does the title of the book give you a good idea of what the book is about? Does the subtitle make it clear what the promise of the book is? That is the science behind a great cover. The design of your print book's interior, both paperback and hardback, is perhaps the most difficult part of the design from a technical point of view. Not only does the software used, Adobe InDesign, have a steep learning curve, but there are many design pieces to coordinate so that they come together in a book design that not only looks great when you pay attention to it, but it doesn't get in the way of actually reading the book. In fact, most people don't notice great interior design because it's designed not to be noticed. You want your reader to focus on the content of the book. One design element to pay attention to is the running header. These are the words that are usually at the very top of a page and are often the book title, chapter title, or the author name. They should be available to read, but not take attention away from the main body of the text. They should also not be used on chapter title pages or most of the front and back matter. Running headers look out of place there and will be noticed. So it's also about expectations. There are several other design elements like running headers to pay attention to, such as margins, gutter, bleed, page numbers, widows and orphans, and many more. Too many to cover here for sure, but it's exactly what our design team pays attention to. Now, ebook design is one of the most overlooked aspects of book design. Most ebooks are simply exported from the print design file with no thought to the huge differences between how print book and ebook consumption differ. For example, print books are static. The page size doesn't change. With an ebook, however, the page size, more accurately the screen size, changes with every device you read on. You might read your ebook on a small phone screen that measures 5 inches or a large computer screen at 27 inches. In a print book, the font size never changes, but with an ebook, the reader can choose any size font they want. They can even choose a completely different font. In a print book, you can have elements such as callouts or block styles with extra margins on the left and right sides. In an ebook, that makes for a terrible reading experience because the screen size can be as small as 4.7 inches. I've downloaded ebooks from big professional publishers where the margins are so large on both sides of the screen that the text itself only contains 1 letter per line. You can imagine what it's like trying to read that. Good ebook design limits the largest font size to 18 points so even chapter titles will fit on 1 screen. Good ebook design doesn't have large margins that create a thin column of text that's impossible to read. And good ebook design focuses on the reading experience and doesn't include anything that gets in the way of that. This is the part that confuses a lot of people. Who is the publisher? Do I need a publishing company name? Who does the printing? Who pays for shipping? First, you are the publisher. You own the rights to your book, not Amazon or anyone else. Traditional publishers buy the rights to their books. And that means if a big name author like Stephen King publishes a book, he no longer owns that book. His publishing company does. And because they own it, they get to list their name as the publisher inside of the book. You, on the other hand, are not selling your rights. You own the whole book and all forms of it. You can use your own name as the publisher, or you can create your own. And it doesn't even have to be a legal company. This is just a name that you want associated with your book. If you have a brand or you own a business, you can use that name or some form of it if you want. You can also just make something up. We once designed a book for a poet, and when I explained about publishing company names to him, he looked out his window and chose the name Rusted Truck. So that's what we used when we set up his ISBN for him, and it's also what shows up on the Amazon sales page for his book. On the other hand, most of the authors we work with don't much care about the name because almost nobody pays attention to it, and no one makes a buying decision based on who the publisher is. The author and the topic of the book are much more important. So, what exactly are Amazon KDP and Ingram Spark if they aren't publishers? They are printers and distributors. Even more specifically, they are print on demand, also known as POD, printers. That means they use digital printers that allow them to print one copy of a book at a time instead of thousands of books like you have to do with offset printers. Most books today are actually printed POD. It's a pretty efficient system when you can order a book on Amazon and then it's both printed and shipped to you within a few days. KDP and Ingram Spark are also distributors. After they print your book, they ship it to the customer and the customer pays for the shipping. This means that when you upload your book to KDP, you don't have to pay for anything up front. You get paid your percentage of sales, also called royalties, once a month, and you can always see how much you're going to receive by going to either your KDP or Ingram Spark dashboard. And one last thing, KDP and Ingram Spark are not sellers either. KDP is the printing and distribution arm of Amazon, so it's Amazon that is the seller. And Ingram Spark handles printing and distribution not only for Amazon, but also Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Books A Million, and many, many more booksellers. Now, you can sell your book in many places, although most people sell most of their books on Amazon. However, you can also sell your books from your website or even in person. One effective method to use is what is called a free plus shipping funnel. With this method, you sell your book from a website, offering the book for free, and the customer only needs to pay for shipping and handling, often around $7.95. Using the same website, you then offer additional products for sale, such as the book in audio format or a course, or another product you have for sale. Best of all, even if you only sell the book itself and none of the other products, you now have the customer's email address, so you can then use email marketing to sell more products to them. The site expertsecrets.com is a great example of this. Not only is the book itself well worth the price, but you get to see a free plus shipping funnel in action. Because of the additional products the author sells, he makes almost $70 for every book sold. There are many additional topics related to marketing your book, far more than I can go into here. Many authors use book launches to sell a lot of books and get the momentum going. You can promote your book launch with guest blogging and guest podcasting, joint venture partnerships, offering many bonuses, and a lot more. Whatever methods, tactics, or strategies you use, always avoid fake or overhyped marketing. Buyers have matured and no longer fall for these tactics. In the end, not only have you harmed your reputation and damaged your character, you also feel small and petty. What actually sells books is presenting your book to the people who want it the most and effectively showing them that your book provides a solution to one of their biggest needs or pains. It's not about manipulating or tricking someone who doesn't need it into buying your book. All that does is create an unhappy buyer who tells people how terrible your book is. If your book actually solves someone's problem, then it's a great book for that person. Your job is to show or teach that person about your book and how it will help them. And that's what copywriting is all about, which you'll learn in another video.